Hello, and welcome to our first talk here in Managing Across Borders at the Middlesex University. I welcome all students here from Malta, and I welcome very much all the students from the UK, which are here in our computer on the Google Hangout. Hello to UK and worldwide who's listening. I am very pleased and honored to introduce you today to the former CEO of the Mater Dei Hospital, to the owner of two big companies here in Malta, and so we're so okay, it's working. So technic. Okay, so sorry for the technical delay. Um, we have Joseph Caruana here. He is the owner of Inspectra and T-Port, and he is an expert, what I would say from my experience, in ethical leadership. Um, we've been talking quite a bit on ethics and business ethics, and I was like, wow, how do you do this? He's been working as a CEO of the Mater Dei Hospital, the biggest hospital here, and with a multicultural back team. So the question was always, how do they do that? And as I am here, the lecturer in Managing Across Borders course, I was always like bugging him with things, and he gave me nice advices from the practical side of view. And so I was like, can't you come and honor us and share that with us so we can learn from you? Because we have books and we learn a lot from books, but books are not enough. I think practice is way more important. Um, so before I hand on the microphone to you for the short introduction, I'd like to tell you what we're going to do. We start this session with like some few questions for like 10 to 20 minutes. And then we open up the discussion for all of you. Whoever wants to ask questions on the topic of business ethics is very welcome. For the procedure, if you have a question that relates to what we are talking about in the moment, please raise two fingers. Two fingers up. If you have a new question and think, put a one finger up. So that helps us to discuss the topic in detail. For a two finger, like questions to the topic, one finger for the topic that is new, and we'll add that later on. And so we are very happy to have you here, and we hope to learn from you and to be guided from your experiences. And yes, so let's start.
Thanks, Mario. Is the microphone working? I don't think so, is it? It is. Okay. I won't sing. I won't sing, okay? And my voice won't change. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I am not an expert or a philosopher on business ethics. I just have work experience. I have come across several situations where the question of ethics in business comes up, and I can only relate to you how I've tried to work in a business environment in situations where ethics became an issue. I am not perfect. I've made mistakes in my life, in my career. Hopefully, there are more situations where I made mistakes and learned my lesson than where I made mistakes and did not learn. So I share my experiences with you. You are free to ask any question that you like. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you. I know the answer. I can relate to you with my business life experience. Business ethics comes into a business scenario all the time, both at the micro level and at the macro level. So there are business ethics issues when you relate with your own employees. Then there are business ethics issues when you relate with the market and the customers. We cannot run away from it. We cannot run away from it. And as time goes by, in my opinion, one part is becoming easier. Relating with the market from an ethical point of view is becoming easier all the time. Relating with your employees from an ethical point of view is becoming more difficult. And I will explain why. Today, both at an international level and the national level, the place for business amateurs is getting less and less. So if you want to compete in a business scenario at the macro level, at the market level, at an international level, you have to be professional. And the quest for professionalism is making industries come up with self-regulation, because the good professional players don't want amateur players coming into the market and getting the business just before, because they cut corners. I'll give you a simple example. Uh, let's take the food industry. The food industry at an international and at a national level can you please close the door? Thanks. Because we get cold. The food industry is ever more becoming self-regulated. And the regulation in the food industry today covers all food handling from farm to fork. So the same rules apply in the food industry. Whether you are producing a food to be given to animals, to a food to be served in a restaurant. And the concept of genetically modified products has come in. In the paper industry, the paper suppliers today are saying we are a good company because we buy paper which is coming only from managed forests. Today there are managed forests where trees are cut to produce paper, replanted and grown until all the paper suppliers buy their paper from those forests only. And the industry created rules and regulations which make the paper supply, let's call it ethical within inverted commas. Because the concept of ethical can be taken as far as we want it to. It could include sustainability. It must also include, and this is where the big question comes in, To what extent is the human being the central figure in what we are doing? And any ethical rules, whether we like it or not, start from there. So as I told you, at the macro international business level, being ethical is becoming easier. At the micro level, it is becoming more difficult from my experience. Because at a micro level, there are a few factors which we cannot run away from. Number one, my generation comes from a generation which was my parents were the post Second World War product. After the Second World War, the West was totally impoverished. So the objective was create your own future, be cautious with money, save money, and provide value for money in what we do. So my generation comes from a generation where at home we would buy one small bottle of Coke and share it at dinner time between four people. So the consumer society did not exist. So when I went to apply for a job, it was not a matter of me as the applicant posing my conditions. It was a matter of if I want a job, I accept the conditions that are given to me, and then I prove myself. So that's something which today in society has changed. Today, an applicant for a job will give you as conditions. And as the employer, you have to decide whether you are able or want to accept those conditions or not. The second aspect is the multicultural aspect. We cannot run away from the fact that today travel is easier, travel is cheaper, borders are more open than before, and in every country, globalization is running faster than how much the individual countries can develop. So any business, let's look at the IT sector. If a business in Malta needs somebody from the IT industry and cannot find a Maltese national, will easily go to a non-Maltese national. And nothing stops them from employing the non-Maltese national. I was in a hospital. Malta is not creating enough nurses for the demand for nurses. So the government has a dilemma. Do I not employ, do I not create the health system that requires so many nurses just because Malta and university cannot create them fast enough? Or do I have a wider responsibility to the Maltese nationals at large to continue to provide free healthcare? And therefore, if I need more nurses, I will get foreigners. But the foreigners come here with a multicultural challenge. And we cannot put our head in the sand and imagine that that challenge is not there. Because cultures are different. About 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, I carried out a quality system audit in a bank in Romania. And when you audit organizations, you have to prepare the findings. And the findings are normally called non-conformities. And in Romanian culture, a non-conformity means the failure of that manager. So when I prepared my presentation, they asked me, please don't call them non-conformity because we'll get sacked. Understand? So multiculturally, we are going to be presented all the time with these types of challenges. Conversely, uh, if I if I'm a manager in Finland, if I'm a CEO in Finland, and one of my managers or directors gives me a report which I think is substandard, if I tell this manager I expected better, culturally, the manager from Finland or Norway understand that he has to take that report back, do it again, and bring it back. And the only thing I need to tell them is I expected better. If I am in Italy and I receive a report and I'm the CEO and tell the Italian or Greek or Portuguese or Spanish guy I expected better, the guy would tell me, okay, next time I'll try to do it better. So I have to tell him, this is not acceptable, go and do it again. And you have a week to come back. If I'm the same CEO in Tunisia or in Algeria, and I tell the guy I expected better, tell me, fine. And next time he'll do it as bad as this time. So I have to tell him, go and do that now. Because if you don't do it right, I'll sack you and come after your family. Now, this is not the fault of the person coming from the other country. This is just a state of facts that we think that the world revolves around us. We think that Malta sets the standard. We think that the UK sets the standard. We think that Nigeria sets the standard. But it's not like that. So when ethics come into the picture, we must all the time gauge it vis-a-vis the culture that we are dealing with. It does not mean that our standards or our ethical standards will change, but the way we apply them or arrive to them has to change. After we gauge the type of culture and type of situation that we are dealing with. I don't know if you want to add anything to this or develop anything for the question.
Yes, thank you. Are there any two fingers to that? No. Thank you very much for the introduction, and I think you pointed rightly out that we are here focusing on the human being, on a CEO being a human being, and acting upon people within their cultural surroundings. However, maybe we can come back real quick to a company and are actually people in general, or how do we equip people to recognize and resolve moral dilemmas in companies? I mean, I do understand a CEO grows into it with it by experience mostly, or negative experiences, and learns from it. But what does a CEO do to bring his people, his staff, to recognize and resolve moral dilemmas? What can he do?
First of all, everything takes off from professionalism. Everything takes off from professionalism. I understand that a lot of you are studying IT. Am I right? Studying IT. Yeah. The world decided that in IT there has to be an international standard. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called ISO 27001. Have you heard of it? Okay. Why did they create it? They created to have a basis on how things are to be done professionally. Secondly, just because everybody does not have the same values as a person, or has a different hierarchy of values. For some people, transparency and truthfulness comes first. For some other people, money comes first. So in those situations, presented with the same facts, if the hierarchy of values is different, the approach to tackle the situation is going to be different. To cater for that, society has created legislation. You have things like the Data Protection Act. The Data Protection Act in Malta and in many countries is there to create boundaries and borders, so that if somebody is not able to apply the industry standard ISO 27001 properly, we add on a legal framework to ensure that the individuals and society are protected. So we have these two tools: the professional aspect, which is given to us by the industry, and the legalistic aspect given to us by law. But the lubricant for these two mechanisms to work smoothly will come from our choice of values as individuals and our respect for the individual and society at large. And honestly, I cannot force you on the choice of these values. The choice of these values is entirely your decision. And it's a decision that you do it yourself without having to go around hang your flag. My values are these. Because if you hang your flag telling others, my values are these, the psychological probability is that they are not. And you are making a smoke screen so that people think about you that you are A when in fact you are B. I don't know on this one.
Yeah, thank you very much. I understand, but going further into this detail, because morals are really connected to values, and do you think, as far as I understood you, is it really possible to train and educate values and morals? Do you think CEOs should nowadays give people the opportunities in companies to be trained on moral, ethical issues, give them a safe place to talk about it, to inspire them to do so?
Yes, the inspiration comes entirely by setting the example and by setting the standard. I can give you several situations where when I was in hospital, some of my directors were imposed upon me. And they were imposed because of, let me say, political reasons. Somebody would tell me, your director IT is this guy. So I had to decide whether to fight the institution and say, I am the CEO, I choose my director IT. If I don't choose my director IT, I will resign. And I chose not to take that approach. I chose to take the approach, fine. If I'm going to work with this director IT, we have to deliver results. When I was appointed CEO of the hospital, quite a few of the directors had been appointed there before, and several of them had, let's call them, political strings. So my approach was very simple. I would call in the directors, establish with them what are the objectives for the hospital, for the patient, so that with IT or with HR or with nursing or with engineering, we give the patient the best deal and then expect of my directors to achieve those objectives. What I was observing that these objectives are not being achieved. I would call the director and ask him to be accountable. Why are we not achieving these objectives? What can I, as a CEO, do to help you, Mr. Director, achieve these objectives? And at that point, uh, it's the real ability, the real professional ability of the director comes up. If the director is competent, he will tell you, you can help me in this or this. If the director is not competent, he would not know how to answer. In some cases, I got a mentor to help and support the particular director. Obviously, from business standpoint, there is a limit up to what you can support a director. So ethically, I was supporting the director, and there was another aspect to it. It's not fair, and I don't do justice with all directors who are working hard if I don't bring the other director to check.
Yeah. We understand that part. So, but you need to treat them fair, right? So you need to treat every member fair, as I understood. So what is if you have members that are ethically not integer or they don't show the integrity, or they then you have on the other side a director that shows some kind of moral courage. For instance, in a hospital, like sets in like a new patent, works hard for a risky medication that works out to be like really fine. Um, how do you actually act upon people like that? Because you can't treat them fairly in the right way, right?
First of all, uh, again, it goes back to our choice of values and our choice of ethics, our own ethical code. If one of my directors is not ethically correct, I have to block that situation to me because we have to send the message that there are boundaries. There are boundaries beyond which we will not compromise our choice. And showing your boundaries is very important. Showing your boundaries is very, very important. Because if you don't do that, the other people will not know how to relate with you. So showing your ethical boundaries is critical. If I have a director who's not performing or who is performing unethically, I will put a stop to the meeting. Now, what's very important is when you relate to people, even to give them bad news or to tell them that you're not happy with what they're doing, it's extremely important that you never use sweeping statements. Never, never, never tell somebody, I think you are, I think you're not good at this. I think you have an attitude problem. Never, never use sweeping statements. I know that many people like to use the word being assertive. What's important? What do you understand by the word being assertive? طيب, imposing your opinion on the subject. Somebody else. Getting your point across. Dicta. Hitting the nail on the head. Any other definitions? Tara, you are almost. The imposing is not the right word. Being assertive is getting your point across such that the other person understands it without hurting the feelings of the other person. So I tell you, this is what I want. That's not being assertive. That's me being aggressive. So when you're going to deal with other people, especially when it comes to ethical issues, you have to be very precise and talk about the facts. So if I have a director who I think is useless, I don't tell him, uh, I think he's useless. I have a situation as a director was imposed upon me, and from my experience, you would realize how people respond and to what extent they are competent in what they're doing. But he had a very weak character. So I called him in and told him, are you happy in this new job that you have? He said, yes. I said, why are you asking? I said, because if somebody is not happy in this job, he doesn't perform well. And you've been with us for 2 months now, and in this and this two particular aspects, in my opinion, I don't see that you're performing properly because of the outcome of what's happening. So I did not tell him you're incompetent. Can you appreciate the difference? And he said, but I'm happy here. I said, please think about it. Take a week to think about it because if you are happy here, I am not happy with your performance on these two. And I'm going to expect and then force that you perform well in these two. So if you want to remain in the job, know that I'm going to put pressure on you to perform. I had a similar situation with somebody else who was not a weak intellect character, but who was, in my opinion, an arrogant character. I called him. I did not ask him the question, are you happy here? I told him, you've been with us for 5 months. This is your job description. I, as CEO, am responsible for what you're doing. Your work is critical for the patients. Items 3, 7, and 9. In your job description, you are not performed properly. You've been with us for 5 months. You've got enough time to do them properly. From next Monday, if you're not going to do them properly, I'm going to give you written notice. And after 3 written warnings, you will be sent. So can you appreciate the difference in approach? I did not tell you you're a stupid, arrogant ass. That's maybe what I thought or felt. But I would not tell him that. Because ethically and professionally, I am in no position to make a sweeping statement about the rest. But I can tell him safely that these aspects need to be fixed. And nobody could challenge me. An hour later, after this meeting, I got a phone call from the office of the Prime Minister telling me, why are you uh, why are you picking on this guy? He said, picking on me. They told me, you're picking on Joe Borch. I said, Joe Borch. The Joe Borch. I knew precisely whom they were referring to, but I acted as if I didn't know. I told them, which Joe Borch? Joe Borch from Department A? They said yes. I said, I'm not picking on him. I was talking to him an hour ago. I was not picking on him. They said, yes, you're picking on him. I said, who told you that? They said, he told us that. I said, okay, but what did he tell you precisely? They said, he told us you're picking on him. I said, but what did he tell you? You're picking on him. I said, Mr. Opie, I spoke to Joe Bush. His responsibility is to do these things. These three particular things he's not doing. And it's my responsibility to make sure that these things are done for the sake of the patient. So if I want to do my job properly, and if I don't do it properly, you, Mr. OPM, will be in trouble. I expect him to do it. And if they're not being done, I have to bring him into account. Mr. OPM, if you are in my position, what would you do? He told me, okay, you're right. Bye. So notice, I did not offend anyone. I stuck to what is professional. I was ethically and professionally correct. And the other party could not really challenge. Are you understanding? There are several other situations which I could talk about, but which I think for the sake of confidentiality, I ought not to expose. But in my experience, I found out that if you stick to your uh, position, most of the time, ethics and correctness will win. Yes, be honest, I've never worked in an in an organization, neither here nor overseas, where business ethics was considered something to talk about in a formal and systematic manner. I'm not saying it's not right to talk about it, but in my experience, the subject was never faced as a uh, topic for discussion. If particular situations arose, then they were faced, understand? But to tackle them a priori before something ethically questionable happens, I have not been exposed to that. I will mention another thing. uh, some of the big companies, like Nike, for example, or Jaeger, or these big firms, created a standard called the Standard for Social Accountability. And I remember about 8 or 9 years ago, I was approached by a company in Malta because their client, one of these big players, asked them to put in the standard for social accountability. And I told them exactly what they need to do and how to do it to put it in. And they put it in. But when you put in these standards, normally you expect a third party to come and check you out on a regular basis because you can't be the judge and jury of what you do. You need something independent. And this company never called me back. So nobody can say to what extent they were putting the standard of social accountability properly in place. Today they are in court and on the headlines because they've treated their employees uh, irregularly and unethically.
Yeah, thank you very much. That brings me exactly to the next point where I was asking or thinking about. As I understood, as a CEO, you are obliged to do good. So to do good for the staff, for the colleagues, the shareholders, the environment, and the society as such as a whole. And now comes the kind of a tricky question from the moral point. Just the legal point is something else, and the business perspective, anyways. But from the moral perspective, what justifies wage differences then between nurses and doctors?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, I heard. Can I take a break, please? So I'll run away. Ah, yeah. This is very uh, tricky because unfortunately, now this might be also coming up, all right? Yeah, the world is going bananas, in my opinion. There was a time where the only society, which tried to create some order and justice, was religion, whether it's Hindu, Christian, Muslim, whatever. It was religion. As society became more intelligent, people started to say, wait, it's not just focus of religion. It's not just miracles. It's not just the God out there telling us to descend it. So we started to move to secularism, okay? Where we said, we're intelligent. I don't want a priest or an imam to tell me what is right and what is wrong. I'm a free person. And society switched broadly to two streams. You had the capitalistic stream, which says basically survival of the fittest. If you're good, you become successful and you become rich. If you're not good, it's your problem. So the center of that was and is money. And then we had the communist or socialist stream, which put a building in human being at the same time. And we are seeing now that we replaced religion to improve. But the choices have not resolved basic human issues. And both communism and capitalism are now failing. So when you tell me, is it ethically correct that a doctor and a nurse don't have the same wage? Then I'll put it differently. Is it correct that a consultant in Malta earns $100,000 and the same consultant in the States earns $500,000? Until we are in a capitalistic scenario, it's going to remain. Is it correct? The answer is no, in my opinion. But it takes us back to professionalism. In the States, a consultant earns $500,000. But his work is linked to quality performance measures. So if the consultant carries out the surgery on a patient to remove an appendicitis, the proper, safe, expected time of the patient in the hospital is not longer than 3 days. If the patient has to stay longer, that consultant is called to task. When they tell him something, the quality of your work is not right. You are harming the patient. The patient should have healed in 3 days. Why did the patient not heal in 4 days? Why did he not? So the ethical part is linked to the quality, to the professional.
In your experience as a CEO, I'd like to ask, because I know recruitment is also key in business. Are there recruitment? Yes. Are there things to look out for when you're recruiting, and especially for positions as regards to management? Are there key features that a manager needs to have for the success of the business?
Uh, have you heard of the Peter's principle? What are you thinking? Huh? Yeah, no, I'm joking. Well, guys, uh, listen to me. The Peter principle says the following: everybody is promoted to his level of incompetence. Important to know. Are you understanding it? If not, I'll explain. Everybody is promoted to his level of incompetence. ċara jew le? Mara, what do I mean? When I was asked to be CEO of the hospital, I spent 8 months farting about, thinking whether to say yes or no. Simply because of the Peter's principle. Because everybody is promoted to the level of incompetence. Let me explain. I'm an engineer by profession. Can I stand up for them? What about the UK? Are they the same? Are. Let me stand up. Well, I'm an engineer by profession. Okay. And at one point, I moved from engineering to management. So I went from an engineering job, a technical job. I was working on the development of aircraft engines into a management job. And I started working in this factory. And after a while, they promoted me to chief engineer. And I did well. So they wanted to promote me to general manager. So I took the job as general manager. And I did well. Then I moved on to other companies and progressively moved on to other positions higher. It's okay, I'll sit down. Higher than general manager. In these movements, I was always at risk of failing. Because if I am a good chief engineer, it does not mean that I'm going to be a good general manager. And if I'm a good general manager, it does not mean I'm going to be a good managing director. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, you have to, sorry, turn it around again. Alright, let it leave that. Fortunately or unfortunately, uh, it's management is a skill that I would say at least 50%. You either have it or you don't. The other 50% comes by developing the skill, comes by honing the skill. For example, when I was offered the job of general manager in 1992, I went to a recruitment agency where they carry out psychometric tests. And at that time, it cost me half a month's salary. Because you go to this office in Valletta, they do the test, 3/4 of an hour answering questions and filling forms. They send it by post to the UK. And 2 months later, you get your result. And just 2 weeks ago, I pulled this result of this test out. And they do a job match. And I was surprised at how accurate it was. And the weaknesses they identified in 1992. I still have them, and I've improved upon them with a massive effort. So it wasn't easy. So when you are recruiting uh, into the position of management, you have to look for these types of characteristics where these tests will help you, psychometric tests. Another important aspect is this. Today, if you're in management, you cannot say that you have a particular management style. You cannot say it. Because you're going to meet. Can I write on the board, please? You're going to meet people with different competencies. You will have not motivated, motivated, not competent, competent, competent. Listen. Motivated, not motivated. Not competent and competent. So your employees will fall into one of these. There are some people who are competent and motivated. There are some people who are not competent and not motivated. Some people are not motivated but competent. Some people are not competent but motivated. Your management style has to be different with each. Come on, please. Because in the end, you are dealing with people and you are dealing with values. And if you deal with values, your ethical issues will become manageable. Do you understand? And the more we become multicultural, the more it is crucial to understand. And unfortunately, it is different with every culture. Why don't they rob banks in Switzerland? You know why they don't rob banks in Switzerland? This one. because it's against the law.
Okay, that's just a myth. Sorry. But that's true. Did you? Because let me go on maybe with the question being on the culture. The, are there any relating questions to the CEO recruitment? Yes, we're coming. Very good.
Yeah, when you talked about quality assurance or the quality standards, are there different quality standards from here and that of US, or are they the same? Should there be different?
Let's talk about standardization at large first, and then go down to specifics. The standardization developed in the world first, unfortunately, in the military. For the simple reason that if you are at war and you have a gun and want to shoot at the enemy, you can't afford that you press the trigger and it jams or nothing happens. Yes. But soon after, standardization became essential in the most industries where human life is endangered. And it started in the nuclear industry, then it moved to the petrochemical industry, then it moved into the pharmaceutical industry, then the aviation industry. And in these industries, there are global international standards. To answer your question quickly, standardization will be, has to be, is already, is going to be international. If we don't have the time, but we can go into the history. It started with those industries where human safety is paramount. With the where does ethics come into it? We had a massive ethical, well, in the nuclear industry. We had a big incident in the States in 3 Mile Island. And they set nuclear standards worldwide and set them higher. In the chemical industry, we had a massive incident in Seveso, in Italy, and in Bhopal, in India. And they set new international chemical standards for the pharmaceutical industry. In the petrochemical industry, we had a massive incident in Bhopal. 5,000 people died. In 3 Mile Island, 400 people died. In Piper Alpha oil disaster, 70 people died. And every time humankind says, we've hurt human beings, let's make a standard to reduce the risk of hurting people less. In the commercial field, had a big disaster called Enron. Have you heard of it? Enron. This was a company where money. Have you heard of KPMG or Price Waterhouse? Money. There was a anyway. Ernst and Young. Right. Right. These audit companies used to be called the Big Four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving this on. Right. Their job was to make sure that any business organization in the world is operating within correct legal parameters. And their job was to give a guarantee to the governments where organizations operate and to the shareholders of these organizations that these organizations are working ethically and legally correct. Yes. In the same way that there was the Chernobyl disaster, the 3 Mile Island disaster, the Bhopal disaster in the industry, there was the disaster of ethics in the financial service. Because the directors of Enron, in collusion with people from this company, were forging data to benefit directors in Anderson at the expense of the shareholders of them. And in the same way that happened in the other industries, the financial services industry said this is enough. And Arthur Anderson, after the Enron scandal, vanished from the face of the earth. So there is a tendency to become more ethical. Unfortunately, we arrive at it after we screw up at it.
MDX is also well known here for its IT education. And some weeks ago, there were some few robots outside and inside the classrooms. We tried to play with them. We were not so successful. But so, were you some robotic builders here? No. No. Okay. Well, anyhow, so the IT, what I would like to go to, the IT, I think is the next religion. So you're speaking to a lot of goddesses and gods over here in the future, maybe. And some few, maybe more being the sustainable, ethical, moral mindset here. The question that comes into my mind, if I look at the IT sector and the internet age or the new millennium or however you'd like to name it, the new world or the virtual world, there are some standards on the technical side. There are less standards on the moral side. There is everywhere something that is connected to the new world, be it robots, be it wearable products, be it, you know, clothes with technology in, be it just smartphones. And the question is like, for one thing, the internet world, the IT brings something really good because brands can be traced, products can be traced, so everything is just like one click away. So it brings a lot of transparency for the consumers. It brings a lot more pressure sometimes for the companies because communities, networks can really like put a lot of pressure on it. We have a lot of networks like change.org that try to foster good behaviors in societies. We have a movement that's called Transition to Zero, where communities are involved actually by first connecting through the internet. And my question is like, how do you think this virtual world and all the technological products influence the change of ethics in business? Because it is not only, you know, you said like, okay, normally we had an accident, we had like, you know, Chernobyl and big accidents. Nowadays, we just have Snowden, maybe. So how do you think this will actually influence ethics and in which way?
This is the most difficult question. So how I'm going to answer is just my opinion. It's not Bible truth, and it's open to challenge. Okay? First of all, we cannot stop development. We cannot. Because the quest of the human being to create is so huge that you cannot stop. Whether it's a picture or a camera that goes into my bloodstream to measure my blood cells. It is both of them are creation. The camera in my bloodstream solves my health problem. The picture gives pleasure to my senses. So they're both equally important. So our concern should not be how to stop or manage creation, in my opinion. Our concern has to be, are we able to keep the human being as the center for, as the center of this development? Which means, if I develop something to its extremes, but I maintain the interests and of the human person during my development, then that's fine. Problems, ethical problems will arise where, for the sake of development, I forget or put at risk human interest first. And you may not realize, but this has happened already. Let's look at aviation. You will be hurt with a car accident. The probability of you being hurt with a car accident is 10 times higher than being hurt with a plane. The average number of people who died with a plane crash up to 2013 was 460 people. When millions of people fly every day with aircraft. But in 2013, only 460 people died with a plane. in 2013, 14% of people who died in hospitals in Europe died because of a mistake in the hospital. So, if we develop robotics properly, keeping in mind the good and the benefit and the respect of the community. Fantastic. And where we stand, for example, aviation, we have been successful to the point that today you can fly safely equally from here to there and take 23 years instead of 150 as used to take 10 years. But you understand? So as long as you do the development with the human being as the center for the progress, you will have very little ethical issues. The ethical issues will arise where you are going to put the human being second place.
Staying a little bit with the IT people, Switzerland example, I guess everyone heard about it. The IT people stealing bank data. It was always an IT professional. Yeah, and the one story, I've been living in Switzerland, so during that time was very interesting. A German IT professional stole bank data, and he got a new identity in a small Swiss neighboring country, while the German government bought the stolen data. Morally, I mean, I think that's on the moral perspective. I don't know, you steal something, get money for it, get a new identity, and have a happy life. So the question is how and what is really important in the education for IT people, so they are not tempted to do something like that, because IT professionals are at the core of a business data. They have mostly the access. They deny or give access. So the position is really powerful of IT people in companies.
Yes, I don't see a solution that eliminates crooks, robbers, or dishonest people. Today I don't see it. If you see it, tell me about it. So you'll always have that person who may be a crook. But every industry traditionally developed its own controls. For example, I remember when I used to go to the bank to withdraw money, you would have the cashier in front of you and 3 or 4 cashiers. And behind them, somebody on a desk, they used to call him the signatory, il firmatario. And the cashier would look at your data, prepare the cash, get you to sign a paper, go with the papers to the signatory. The signatory carries out a cross check, and only then they give you the money. Today, these types of controls are done from an IT standpoint. And the regulations and the data protection policies of companies are there first to protect their clients. In fact, standards like ISO 27001, which is about data and information management, are there precisely to protect first, not the organization, but to protect its clients. And when you put them in, you need to get a third party who has access to all your systems and mechanisms. Who is there on behalf of your client to assure your client that your data with this company is. So the industry itself has created its own mechanism for those organizations who put it in.
Staying on the IT side, being on the airport. Has any one of you been in London on the airport? No. Lately? No? Nobody? No? Frankfurt? No? Nobody? None? Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I think doesn't exist on airports. Some airports introduce body scanners. Anyone heard of them? Yeah. I've been working on a test project and actually on the ethical department at the University of Tübingen. They were for Germany actually evaluating and analyzing the moral perspective of body scanning. Is it moral to use body scanners on airports? Yes or no? Maybe you can rise. What do you think? Is it moral? Is it good? Is it, yeah? Yes, stand up. And who says no? I think that's okay. Well, from the moral perspective, brings me to the technological side again. We were especially looking at people with non-visible disabilities. Means like if you have a problem with your stomach or something, or if you as a woman don't have breasts and have implants, people see that on that pictures very clearly. Who's getting that information? This information is in generally connected. It's not only that they say like, it's only screened and then they show at it and delete it. No, it's not only that. Normally the aim is to connect this data. The second point was who is working on it, who knows it, and thirdly, what about the health risk? So if you put maybe people with some illnesses in such body scanners, does this actually create health risk? Long-term studies in Italy shown actually on rats. They stopped all in Finland also, all projects and tests were stopped because of health issues, and the risk was too high for the test persons. So here comes ethic into play, actually, again, in a big thing, because we have one thing that's called security issues, or maybe security issues, because we have in Israel, if anyone been to Israel? No? Israel is really good in profiling. They don't use body scanners, they take humans. They educate humans in profiling people, and they're way better than computers, body scanners, or anything else together. So the question back to you, what do you think on, the involvement of such technologies that are risky maybe, versus the human being, while the human being still is better when the human being is trained?
Yeah. First of all, traditionally, nature first protects the herd and then protects the individual. Nature first protects the herd and then protects the individual animal. Is my opinion. And if we have to do something to protect society at large, we have to think about it first. So, if you ask me as an individual, I have physical problems, and possibly if they do a body scan, they will see that. But if I have to choose between exposing my physical problems but flying safe, I would choose to expose my physical problems but fly safe. And if we have people who are intended to pull
Okay, let's switch on maybe back to companies, as we've been all around the world. Yeah. Y- Yes. Yeah, MDX doesn't seem to educate people with. What about the IT? You never get any questions? Okay, well, then let's head on for our UK people with the next question, which is something we always assume that organizations, well, should do something good, as we said. The CEO should do something good. But the question, if we really go in more into philosophical, ethical discussion, is what does an organization owe to the stakeholders? Or does it actually owe something to them?
Yeah, any organization, any organization owes to its stakeholders and to its customers two responsibilities: to carry out things as professionally as possible and as ethically as possible. In fact, a lot of these international standards today oblige the organization to advise the client on the requirements of the intended use of a product or service, of the legal and statutory and regulatory requirements related to that product, and to advise the customer of implications which the customer may not be aware of. All these international standards are putting this requirement as obligatory. So the trend is to impose social accountability and ethical practices. One of the, for example, there are two standards. One of them is called ISO 9001, which is a quality management standard. Another one is called ISO 14001, an environmental management standard. The environmental both standards today ask you to carry out a risk assessment on all your stakeholders. So if I'm a factory putting out toxic fumes into the atmosphere, I'm expected to sit down with the local council of the village closest to my factory and tell them what I'm doing and promise them in writing how I'm going to reduce the damage. And every year you need to show progress in this reduction. You understand? So the trend is already there to put in more ethical standards and ethical requirements in the business world that promote first the interest of the human being.
So now we're coming a little bit to our end, and there's a more question. Oh, yes. Let me give you the.
Ethically speaking, what do you think is the most important for a business? Its responsibility towards shareholders, i.e., turning a profit, or do you think it is more ethical for a business to safeguard
the employees' interests or corporate social responsibility. I mean, ethically speaking, is it the profit that matters or the other things?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, the reality today, the business reality in the world has changed drastically. And whereas a business has its obligations to its shareholders, i.e., to make profits, in my opinion, the bulk, the extreme bulk of industry in the world today talks about survival. So my shareholders are expecting that in 10 years' time, the business is still alive, but we're doing consistently 5% profits per year. My shareholders are not interested that this year we do 30% profits, but in 2 years' time, we're out of it. So let me tell you from experience that today for most businesses, it is a matter of survival. And it's always a question of, it's always a question of quality and cost. You can spend a lot of money and give fantastic quality. You can spend little money and give lousy quality. And every business is competing to be here, to give you enough quality with the minimum cost to get some profit margin. If the competition is clever, what they do is they raise the bar. Usual. Sorry. They start giving better quality at the same cost. So now it's up to you what to do. Now, the classical example which you have to start off with is spectacle frames. طيب. Then, do you know who Woody Allen is? Woody Allen is an actor. He has standard black spectacle frames. If you see all the black and white photos from the 70s or before, everybody wore the same spectacle frame, black plastic. When the spectacle frame changed from a medical device to a fashion item, all the factors were faced with a massive problem. Because all the factors in the world making spectacle frames were geared up to produce the same item 10,000 a day. every day to 120 days a year. And when the spectacle frame became a vision item, they had to say, what shall we do? We either continue producing these frames because that's what we know what to do and run out of business. Or change to the market. And those who survived learned to make 1,000 frames a day of 10 different styles with the same number of people in one day. So their costs remain the same. Today, the issue of survival is so huge that the aspect of wage is dictated by the world market. When I was working in industry in the until 2005, no, until 2009, most industry had in front of it a an order book of 6 months, which means you go to a factory or a manufacturer and they tell you, I have enough orders to fill up my time and people for the next 6 months. And they used to start to worry if they had enough work for the next 5 months. And they would be super happy if they had enough work for the next 9 months. Today, worldwide, after the recession of 2009, if they have more than 4 weeks of orders, they're happy. So the situation is the ethical aspect of the wage is being superseded by the aspect of I don't have more orders. You understand? Now I've been to an experience where we had no orders and I laid off 60 people. But first of all, I chopped people down from every level in the organization, not only from the lower earning level. I offered people a demotion, but to stay with us and still have a job. And those whom I laid off, I sat down with the union and with our private contacts, found them jobs somewhere else. But that was my choice. It wasn't the law which imposed it upon me, or some ethical protocol that the organization had.
Okay, thank you very much. We've been honored to learn from you. And our Dikra, we're asking you to make bring us a little bit of the students' opinion tonight. And let me hello. You want to come over here?
Okay, I didn't prepare for this. So, well, business ethics, as I was thinking about, is not something like values to write on the internet on my website, or not to talk about it as organizations do, because as soon as they do, they call it corporate social responsibilities or PR or media. It's all a way of advertising for them. While business ethics starts from an individual. As Mr. Joseph said, he didn't train his employees for it, or he didn't put any code of conduct or anything. It starts from you. So I would like to tell everybody, you're starting your business, start it from yourself, and you will be a success for other employees, and do it before you screw up. Thank you.
No. So I think we're gonna end up our session for all. We're gonna have a little small talk with our seminar. You're welcome, and then thank you very much for coming, spending the time and sharing with us. It's been a great pleasure to learn from you again. And from the MDX, from our here, we just like to say a little bit a small thank you, one part, because I just have one more left. I know you might like it eventually. And this comes from the, so you have a little remembrance on the school, and well, you don't have to, you know, some surprises are always good, because we're also a little bit, you know, we ethically concerned sometimes and try to give some positive things back. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for you being here and joining us in, and thank you to the UK, and hope to see you again.